So, voting rights has been a topic of conversation a lot lately. If you all recall, Bernie Sanders had a comment at the town hall, or a question at the town hall, that it involved giving felons the right to vote. And in principle, I actually do agree with him. And I think that most progressives, or even most people, agree. Because at the end of the day, in my humble opinion, once you pay your duty to society, that's it. Like, well, at least that's how it's supposed to work. Now, we know in real life, that's not really how it works. However, that's how it should work. Once you pay your debt to society, if it's a legitimate debt, because obviously didn't commit the felony, you're still paying the price, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, then you shouldn't be in prison to begin with. But that all is part of the corrupt criminal justice system that we're actually going to hear Tulsi Gabbard talk about in this particular clip. But Tulsi made comments that I don't really believe are controversial. I think her conclusion is something that I probably disagree with, but it goes to show that this debate is a little bit more nuanced, and there are some things that should be considered. Let's take a listen to this clip.
Help me understand how that could be a thing.
Well, you've got people who are in positions of incredible power, telling people when they can eat, when they can go to the bathroom, when they can go outside, when they can do this or that, taking away access, giving them access to certain things when they're in prison. And with that power comes room for abuse. So if you're saying, okay, it's voting day today, and you allow for that power to be abused to say this is the way you're going to vote, I don't think that's right.
So what she's saying is actually true. And I'm not speaking from some like tangential experience from somebody else. I was wrongfully imprisoned. Now, granted, luckily for myself, it was something that was being considered a misdemeanor at the time, but I was wrongfully imprisoned nonetheless. Now, just because you were wrongfully imprisoned doesn't make it any less likely for you to be treated as all the other prisoners are treated. Make no mistake about that. But there are officers, corrections officers, who do abuse power. There are other people in leadership positions that do abuse power. Like I said, do I actually agree with the idea that prisoners should never be able to vote under any circumstance? No. But that's not what I think Tulsi Gabbard is saying here. What I think she's actually saying is that this is how deeply rooted corruption is in our criminal justice system. Because there have not been any mechanisms, at least to our knowledge, that have been put in place that have at any point shown evidently that, okay, if we give prisoners the right to vote, there won't be people in the criminal justice system to take advantage of that. How do we know this? Our criminal justice system still casually gets the death penalty wrong. Casually. Our criminal justice system uses private prison money, or allows private prison money to influence the decisions that they are making currently. Now, some people would say, well, it's not like people would make you vote for whatever politician they want. That's not even true. I don't believe that. I think that at the local levels, in some of these small towns, there was a town that I'm familiar with called Adel. It's in Cook County, Georgia, and it is under FBI investigation for a number of things, including racial profiling by the police officers, amongst a number of other things that happen inside the prison. Those small towns, those municipal elections can influence the outcome of someone's job. These are the facts. So, but there's more than politicians that get elected. And I don't know if people kind of realize this. What if you are a judge that has been known to put a particular demographic of person in jail consistently and regularly? Everyone knows this. However, everyone, some people know it because they understand we are all getting a piece of this pie. The private prison industry is getting theirs. The county is getting theirs. And then the people who have been victims or have had families and friends who are victim of this. And also, coincidentally enough, the people who are getting disproportionately put in these jails. They know what this judge is about. In jail, they, of course, especially if this is a judge that has put them in jail for wrongful reasons or gave them too high of a punishment for wrongful reasons, guess what those prisoners are probably likely to do? Vote that judge out. Now, this obviously, if the judge is doing wrong, this would be the right thing to do. But it doesn't take a quote unquote federal judge to give you a felony. It can be a judge that can be voted on right in these local elections. In a small town where everybody knows everybody, hey, you don't vote for this, you vote against this judge, because the judge obviously has pull in these in prisons in general, but in local detention centers, local prisons, or local jails, or county jails, they have pull there too. So you don't think that there's some corrections officer that'll probably be on the payroll? We don't have to guess, because there is already. Not literally on the payroll, but they do what they have to do, or they do what benefits them. So you don't think those corrections officers would have a play? Not even just corrections officers, but what if, hey, you vote for this person, this judge that did you wrong. We'll arrest your son the moment we see him driving down the road. We'll arrest such and such. Because, if you're a felon especially, they have all your information. They know who you are. If you ever been on a parole, they definitely have all your information. They know the contact. So what she is describing is unfortunately something that is inherent in the criminal justice system. Now, like I said, in theory, now I won't say in theory, once prisoners serve their time, I am 100% about them getting their voting rights back. 100%. Voting inside of prison, however, is problematic because, like Tulsi points out, we have not dealt with the very foundational corruption that is the criminal justice system. And it could come back to bite while we're trying to do people in prison a favor, and that I understand that part, it could very well come back to screw them and everyone in the town. It's like slaves, right? The reason for people don't know this, right? So I'm sure you all know what the 3/5 clause is. I know that it's been kind of painted as this black people were painted as 3/5 of a person, which it was true. But the reason why that is because the North made that a necessary compromise. And I can't remember what it was. It was in compromise for something else, like another bill. But it was a necessary compromise because otherwise, the slaves were counting as people, but didn't even have the same rights as everyone else. But they were being counted as people. Legislators were getting more representatives because of that. You get what I'm saying? So in the South, they were trying to keep slavery. They had X amount of people, according to the census, in their population. Black people, because of slavery, making up a large percentage of that. So now Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, et cetera, the states that loved slavery all of a sudden got to use the population of slavery to give them more pull in a Congress that was trying to transition away from slavery. And they would have had the opportunity to maintain slavery, at least legislatively. That is what the 3/5 rule is about. So it's kind of like the same concept. If we make it so that basically the oppressor can take advantage of the oppressed and then use that to further oppress, then it isn't really a victory for anybody. So I actually agree in principle with what Bernie said as far as everybody should be able to vote once they've done their time. But and the reason why that is because, I mean, how many people are wrongfully imprisoned? How many people do we know are in prison right now for marijuana, which other people have been made millionaires from? Just because something is a law doesn't make it lawful and doesn't make it morally correct. But like I said, how many people have been wrongfully? There are people who have gotten the death penalty and have been executed, and they were not the right person. So 100%, I agree with that. Felons have been put in prison oftentimes, or even anybody really, but felons too, been put in prison oftentimes by a corrupt criminal justice system that profits off of their labor, and therefore there are people who have been incentivized to put them in prison. Why should they not be able to affect the careers of those who help put them there? Because they can vote on judges, they can vote on DAs. So you're not going to be as incentivized to put as many people in jail when you know it could potentially come back and bite you in the butt. So absolutely, they should be able to vote. But I do see where Tulsi Gabbard is coming from here. The power struggle in prison is real. The corruption is real, and it should be acknowledged. And I think that this is a healthy element to the debate that we can discuss. 'Cause I think that people are kind of all over the place on this particular instance. It isn't like, it isn't cut and dry as we would have liked to think it is. So, we'd love to know your thoughts about this. Leave your comments below, like the video, and share it. And always remember, people, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. Thanks for watching that segment of Mika Says Su Casa. Don't forget to join us on Roku and catch our Roku exclusives. Also, help us reach our goal of 500 patrons on Patreon. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and JustNForm.com. But more than anything else, always remember, find your balance. Peace.